Good morning. My name is Shugo Matlala. The following is a presentation of the student transportation system that I have developed. What I'm going to go through is firstly, I'm going to go through the documentation. After I'm done with the documentation, I will then move on to showing you the system and some of the capabilities or things that it can do. I'm going to start now with the documentation. As we can see, there's various documentations of the system. Alright, here is the documentation. The first thing that I start to do, I walk through the system analysis part. I walk through the problem statement and then I summarize the problem statement. One of the things that I do, I identify specific things that are actual problems. One of the problems that I noted here is that bus monitors do not know the exact number of students who will be taking buses based upon the problem statement. And this problem comes, the reason why we have inefficiency in the bus system is because bus managers do not know the number of students who will be taking buses, and hence students fight or there's quarrelings in the bus terminus. Another thing that we have is where we analyze the problem statement. I go through various things and try to talk about the problem statement. I come up with a solution for the problem statement, and this is the solution that I've proposed. I said I'm therefore proposing a system that will allow students to reserve space in a bus. Using this system, the student will declare where they are going, the time that they are going, and where and when they are returning back. Should they be returning back? The system should then inform the student the time that they should report to the bus terminal and the name of the bus they will be taking. And I have use case diagrams for the solutions that I've proposed. So I've identified two users of the system. We have the student and then we have the bus management. The student will be able to register to the system, log into the system, reserve a bus, view their reservation, and then cancel a reservation. Management will be able to register to the system, log into the system, define a bus route, remove a bus route, view bus reservations, define a bus. So those are some of the things that management will be able to do. So here I have a use case diagram for the system. As we can see, we have a student, they register, the login, same applies to the management. They can update their reservation, they can cancel reservation, they can review reservation, and then they can reserve a bus. Management can review a bus, remove a bus, define a bus, and then define a bus route. We have activity diagrams. We have various activity diagrams here, but then some activity diagrams repeat themselves. So the ones that I've listed down here are activity diagrams that are to some extent unique to the user. We start here with the student registration. Registration of a student and registration of the manager are the same. So for this purpose, I've only highlighted the student reservation. This is how the student will be interacting with the system. The student will click register, upon which the student will prompt students' registration details. The student will then enter their details, upon which the student will validate their information. If the information is not valid, the system will tell the student to prompt, the system will prompt registration details again from the student. And this will circulate until the student enters valid information. When the student enters valid information, the system will print registration success, upon which the student will be taken to the login page. The student will then enter their login information, upon which the system will validate their login information. If the login information is valid, the system will open the student portal. The same activity applies for the manager. they will follow the same rules when they register, upon which when the manager has fully registered and has logged in, the system will open their manager portal. The second step is the student reserving a bus. The student will follow the same login details or the same login procedure as we have described earlier, upon which when they have entered valid information, the system will prompt the starting point, whereupon the student will choose their starting location, and then after they do so, the system will prompt their destination, upon which the student will choose their destination, upon which the system will prompt a starting time. Now, when a student enters the starting time, the system will show the student their pickup time or their start time will determine the destination time, because a route will have a duration. For example, if a student travels from Arcadia to Soshanguve South, their route will have a duration. And so, for example, as I will show later, the route from Arcadia to Soshanguve takes about 45 minutes. So if a student here says the destination, the start time will be 8 a.m., their destination time will be 8:45 a.m. The system will then allow the student to save that information, upon which if the student does not want to save that information or has entered something that is not correct, the system will allow the student to start again. When the student when the student has accepted the trip that they have reserved, the system will then save that reservation. The second thing is when the student cancels a reservation. I will leave it here as this information will be included in the documentation. For the sake of time, I will not go through all the activity diagrams. The second part here are all activity diagrams for management. Management will be able to register, as we have explained previously. This activity diagram is similar to what the student does. It's similar to the student registration activity diagram. The second part is where management will be able to define a bus. Definition of a bus includes telling the system where the bus is going, telling the system the route that the bus will be taking, telling the system, or rather defining a route, defining trips. Those are some of the things that management will have the privilege of doing. So here will be the end of our documentation. The next step, as I've explained, I will now give a short presentation of what the system can do. This is my GitHub link where the system is saved. I will now close the GitHub link. One of the things that I didn't do is to explain the entity relationship diagram. I will open a file that will allow us to see the entity relationship diagram. The following is our entity relationship diagram. As we can see, we have a user, a conductor. A conductor here is management, or is the manager. A user can be a conductor or a student, but cannot be both. Now we have a route. A route has a trip. Now a student reserves a trip. It's pretty much what it means. A student reserves a trip, and a trip has a starting point, a destination, a start time, an end time, and a route ID, which is the route. For example, we may have a route called Arcadia Soshanguve route. A bus that is assigned that route travels only that route. A bus will not take a detour to another destination. A route also defines a destination. We have a starting point, as I've explained, and a destination. A bus is assigned a trip. As we can see here, a bus may be assigned many trips. A trip, as we've noticed, we may have a trip looks something along these lines. We may have a trip that starts from 8 until 9, going from Arcadia to Soshanguve, using the route Soshanguve Arcadia route. That is a trip. In a day, we may have many trips, and a bus will take many trips per day. And a single trip may have many students, which may mean that a single trip may need to be assigned many buses. We will see this information in our database. But also we will see it with, the number of students that come. I will explain this. So this is our database. I'm using a local host. As you can see here, we have a bus. Those are some of the things that I've talked about in the ERD. We have a trip. Let me make an example of a bus. The following is specific instances of a bus. We have a bus named Aka Sosh 1. This can be taken as the bus number plate. For example, a bus will have a specific name. No two buses will share the same name, just like a car cannot share its number plate with another car. We also have a bus trip, as we've explained earlier, that As I've explained earlier, that a bus may take many trips, or a bus may take many trips in a day. Another thing that we have here is a reservation. A student may make many reservations, as we have explained on the ERD. A student reserves many trips. As we can see here, this student has made a reservation. Okay, I opened the student accidentally. This student called Noah has made a reservation, and let us see Noah's reservation. Okay, Noah has made a reservation for trip ID 3 on the date, which is this day, the 26th. So now I'm gonna go to the system. I'm gonna log out, and then I'm gonna try again and sign in. So remember how I said a user can either be a student or a manager. In this case, we're gonna try with Noah. This is the student that we're gonna be working with to demonstrate the system. We see here Noah has this user ID. This user ID can be called a student number. And the idea here is that the student will be retrieving data from the system, from the institution's database. So with that information, or with that knowledge, the system is not allowed to change any of the student's information except for maybe the ID for that case, if the student has forgotten their ID. But we cannot create a new user because we're getting information from the database. The new user simply here says the student. Okay, so the new user here simply means that we are creating, or we are allowing a student to use the student transportation system. So the system has not been styled for time purposes, but as we can see here, these are some of the things that we have. Okay, let me zoom in a little bit so that we can see. Okay, so we have here a student that we just signed in as, which is Noah. Noah was the one that I was just trying to explain about. Okay, if I zoom out here, I'm going to zoom out there as well. So here's Noah. We're going to make the whole thing using him. Let me zoom back in. Okay, so here's Noah. Noah has the following reservations for today. We can see he has made a reservation for 8 until 45 to go to Arcadia campus. So for now, we only have one trip, Arcadia campus. So now let's allow Noah to make a reservation. So here we're going to make a reservation, and as per defined in the activity diagram, we can see that a student is able to make a reservation. The date here is auto-populated. The student cannot make a reservation for a date that is not today. The day here is made by the system. So the student will then select a time. Let's say the student wants to make a reservation for, let's say, he does not have 16 hours here, 1600 hours. So we'll make a reservation for 1600 hours. So as soon as the student selects a time, the system tells the student the time that they will arrive. So as we can see here, we have the time, and then we have, let's say the student will be from Soshanguve campus at 1600 hours and wants to end up at Arcadia campus at 1645 hours. As we can see here, we do not have that information yet. So we're going to select save. Now this information has been saved. When I reload, we can then see that Noah has made a reservation round about 1600 hours from Soshanguve South Campus, which is the starting point, and the destination is Arcadia campus. We can try it with a different student that has not made a reservation completely. So now let's see a new user here. Since we have logged out here, we're going to try with another student. So we have a lot of students here. We can just take maybe this. Okay, let's just try to take Gavin, for instance. We're going to copy his user ID. We're going to paste it here. And then the password for now is empty since Gavin has not done anything. So we can see Gavin has just made a reservation at 8:00 until 8:45 to go to Arcadia campus. So now let's say Gavin wants to make a reservation. Already Gavin has made a reservation from 8 to Soshanguve South campus. So which means at 9 Gavin will be at Soshanguve South campus the time that the bus will arrive there. So now we want to take a 9 o'clock bus, and now we want to go back from Soshanguve South campus. We want to go back to Arcadia campus. Okay, so let's say Gavin arrived here at 9. So let's say he had a class at 10. And the class ended at 10, or rather, let's say the class ended at 10, and now Gavin wants to take another bus back to Arcadia campus, which is the final destination. Okay, let's say 10, and so we want to save this information. So now, since we click save, the information has been saved. So now we're going to reload, and then we can see that at 10, Gavin has booked a bus, and the bus will depart at 10. The bus will arrive to its destination at 10:45. The destination is the destination is Arcadia campus from the starting point, which is Soshanguve. That's how the students will interact with the system. So now let's log out and sign in as the manager now. So for convenience sake, we only have one manager. The user type of the manager is true. So now let's log in as the manager and see how the system is going to interact with us. We're going to copy the manager information. We're going to copy the manager ID. So we've made just an example password. which is Chico 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to submit this information, and then now as soon as we get here, we can see interesting information. We can see we wanted to focus on a specific trip at a specific time. Remember, in a day, we're going to have maybe many trips. One of the trips that we're going to be zooming or working on is a trip called Akadia Soshanguve campus trip. As we can see here, we have logistics for trip Akadia Soshanguve campus at 08:45 in the morning. So the number of buses, the system has calculated automatically the number of buses based upon the number of students. So now the system tells the manager that the number of buses that are going to be needed for the trip called Akadia Soshanguve South Campus is 3, because we have 160 students that are going to be taking the bus that morning. The total number of empty seats for one of the buses is 29. It takes the remainder and finds the total number of empty seats. The reason why this is important is sometimes we may just have, so we assume that is a bus, according to defining the bus. We said that a bus, let's look at one bus here. We have a bus. We said that our bus takes about 62 students per bus. So per trip we need, if we have 160 students, we need 3 buses, and one bus is going to have a remainder of or empty seats that are of the value of 29. So now that morning, the bus operator will have this list of students. The bus operator will then look at the list and go through all the students. The students will have to present their student numbers, and then the bus operator will allow them to go through. So one of the things that the bus operator may do, the bus operator may then ask the student their student number. When the student presents their student number, the bus operator will then search the student number. If the student number is not found, then the student has not made a reservation. The student may wait until all the students have gone through, and if the buses are full, the student will have to make another trip. As we can see, we'll have to make a reservation for another bus. So the manager will then be able to see, and when they search for that student, they will be able to see we have a student called Watt who has booked a bus for 8. Now this student will be permitted to take the bus. If this student has not reserved or made a reservation for the bus, the student will be denied access to the bus. These are some of the things that the manager will be able to see for this specific time that we wanted to allude on. Now, on a given day, there will be many trips. The bus manager will be able to choose the time. For instance, they will be able to choose the time, they will be able to choose the trip, and they will be able to see this logistics, including the number of students that are taking the trip. As we can see here is 160, sorry. So this is all that I wanted to demonstrate for the system, and I will therefore end the information here. Thank you.